Hello there, it's Carrie Rhoades here. Welcome to the Trinity Stamps YouTube channel. I'm excited today to be doing my very first video for the Trinity Stamps YouTube team and using this fabulous stamp set, Treetop Adventure. It is so cool. Look at how massive this stamp is. It makes me so happy. It's so cool. So this is going to be the focal point of my Slimline card today. I'm stamping it on a long piece of paper, giving myself plenty of room to color it with my COPIC markers, as well as about 8 other images from that stamp set. So here's my crazy coloring for this tree. I had this just pop into my head and I thought I would give it a try. So I'm using some squirrely, swirly, scribbly motions to color in the entire treetop, the leafy part of this image, and I'm using YR02, which will be the lightest of my colors, down first, and I was not sure. I was like not sure at this point if this was going to work out, but I just kept going, and that's always my tip for coloring with Copic markers. So this is my mid-tone YR16. I'm doing the same exact thing, but trying to keep the squiggles and the swirls a little bit more loose. It's kind of a spirally curling, like if you were a little kid and you were going to color curly hair on someone. That's the technique here. 4th grade curly hair. That's what we're doing. All right, so now my darkest color is YR07, and that will pretty much finish up the coloring. I do go back and add just a tiny bit of the red color that I'm going to use for the trim on the treehouse portion itself. This color right here, YR17. It's also the color I colored each of those tiny little leaves. So I wanted a few little swirls of that color in the treetop as well. So I do that even though I don't show it in this video. Okay, so my mid-tone here is R27, and oh man, my red Copic marker got out of the lines just everywhere. Luckily, the color I was coloring under or around that was some dark grays, so I was able to hide some of it and use white gel pen on the other parts. But yeah, sometimes that red just gets out of control, doesn't it? So I started with my T10 marker and made those really soft. Well, I used a soft hand to create those lines. So when I drew the lines, it would skip. And that kind of gives the look of wood grain. And then I'm going over the top of that in my lightest color, T6, adding a little bit of shadowing with my T8, and then blending that out again with that T6. I'll do the same exact thing to that other portion of the tree house. And I was not sure what color to color the door, so I go back to that later and do lighter T markers, so I will have a light gray door. Now for the tree, my lightest color is E25, and then I'm coming in with my darkest E59, adding in some shadows, and then I'm also going to use this to add in some texture lines. I decided if I'm going with texture on this treetop and tree house, I might as well just do it everywhere. So I added some more wood grain looking lines with my mid-tone as well, E27, and then added in a little bit more of the T25 just to kind of blend everything out. And I really love how this is coming out, and I'm so happy. I just kept going. Now, for the grass, it's fall, and so all the colors are changing. The grass is not green anymore. This is my favorite color combination for like hay and dried grass. So I'm using the E13 and Y17 together. I also threw in some Y08 and E11 just to kind of blend and have different shadows and highlights in this grass. And I did use straight up and down grassy motions for that. Now the dies for this, they're going to cut, there's 3 dies to cut out this main image. One that goes over the top, 2 that come in from the side. So I'm going to hold this up and show it to you because yeah, I was off screen a lot today. I need to reposition some things on my desk, but here you can see it cuts out the sides and the top. So you're going to be left with a die cut image, but how wide across you make this is up to you. I left this kind of big, and then I'm going to trim it down to fit my card, but you could always stamp on the exact size paper you wanted. Fits really well on a 3.5-inch wide piece, or even 4-inch, somewhere in there. All right, so I'm coloring out all those other images. Very simple coloring, except the blue I did use 3 shades, and then the rest I colored off screen, and you can see all of them here. And I love all the pirate images. So this is a treehouse that they're pretending is a pirate ship. For my background, I'm using my card base. This is 9 by 8 inches, scored at 4 inches. That's because I wanted to make this a shaker card and I needed a little extra room for a border. I didn't want to cover up too much of the treehouse with my frame. So I made this the largest size that I could. I used Salty Ocean over the whole thing. You can see I didn't do like a perfect blend. I don't really like a perfect blend for a sky. I want there to be lighter areas and darker areas, and that's why I also love to splatter. So I did my water spritzer and then I did some watercolor paint. I will set that aside to dry, and then I realized I needed my grass to go down a little farther for this card, so I'm coming back in with those same markers and just bringing it down a little bit and using those flicking motions for that grassy texture. And then it's time to make this fit my card base. So I'm laying it on there just to make sure it's all going to work out what I need to cut off, and I cut it to 4 inches wide, and it works great. Now I'll add in my stamped and die cut pieces, starting with my little flag, the banner, the little girl's driving the ship, and the little boy is climbing up the ladder. He's got his sword, and it is just a cute little scene. I love the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as a team, and one of the reasons, I'm not gonna lie, is that they have a pirate ship in their stadium. It's so cool. So this kind of reminded me of that for some reason. So I glued my treehouse down to my card. I decided I needed a little doorknob on my door, and that boy wanted to have an eye patch. Like, he just really needed that. So I just drew it right on there and it worked out fine. I know it's, very nervous to do such things, but sometimes you just got to go for it. So on this 9-inch by 4-inch panel, I'm doing Salty Ocean just around the edge, and I'm die cutting it with the stitched Slimline die, the largest one, to create my frame. Now, the cute part of this die is actually going to be the part I don't use, but I love that I can also use this die as a tool to create a frame. So I can save this centerpiece to use again later for another Slimline card. I did go ahead and spritz this and splatter it with the same watercolor so it would match the sky and my card, and then I'll set that aside to dry. Once it's dry, I'm going to glue on a window sheet that is 9 by 4. I tried to cut it just a hair under 9 inches by 4 inches, so it's a little easier to glue on without it sticking out on one corner that I might have got it crooked on. Once that is dry, I am adding a fence from the Great Outdoors die set, another of my favorite Slimline die sets from Trinity. I love the little fence. You could use it on so many things. So I'm adding in a tire swing, and then doing my sentiment from the stamp set called A Sentiment for Almost Everything. And this says, "Wish you were here." I'm going to stamp that with clear pigment ink and emboss it with white powder so it really pops up off of that orange cardstock. I'll heat set that and trim it down with my paper cutter so I just have a really thin banner that will go at the top of the card, gluing this right to that window sheet that I've just laid down on my card for placement purposes. Then I'm going to add foam strips from Doris all the way around this card, making sure that the ends touch and there's no gaps, and then my shaker elements will not be able to escape. I also like to use my anti-static powder tool around the edge of my foam so that the shaker elements, which are sharks, don't stick to it. Now, these are sold in the Trinity Stamps shop, but if you're playing pirate ship, then what is in the water? Yeah, it's shark infested. So those are my shaker elements, and it just makes me so happy. I think they're adorable. So I'm peeling off the backing to my foam tape and sticking this frame down. That's the same exact size as my card. It's very nervous. I might have adjusted it a little bit more than I showed you on the video, but it worked out in the end. Whew. The only thing is, I wish I would have glued that fence down because some of the sharks are getting in front of the fence. I could have put it between the frame and the plastic sheeting as well. So just a little tip, if for some reason you decide to recreate my card, which I would love, glue that fence down. I thank you so much for stopping by. All the things I used for making this card are listed and linked for you below, and I will see you all again very soon with more stamping inspiration. Happy stamping. Bye.